streaming. I don't even know if we're streaming. Are we streaming? Are we on? Yes, we are on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. So listen, guys, we are talking this morning about a potential death toll of 23,000 per year in the event of a civil war in the United Kingdom. So what I'm going to do on this live stream, you guys know what I think. You guys, I've been telling you guys these things are inevitable. I've been telling everybody that these things, we've reached saturation point already. What I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to give you guys some facts, some figures, and I'm going to let you guys make up your decisions for yourself, make your own decisions. So we are going to be talking about potential death toll in the United Kingdom. We are going to be talking about why I think this is an inevitability, and you guys can make your own mind up. We're going to be talking about the immigration policies in the United Kingdom. We are going to be talking about how things that were unheard of 1, 2 years ago, God forbid 5 years ago, have come out now into the mainstream. But before we get on to this, guys, I want you guys to understand how complicit. I'm not talking about this government. I'm talking about the government under Gordon Brown. So if you guys remember, or if you guys know that back in when these grooming gangs scandals broke out, everybody was wondering why the police are not investigating it. Why is this scandal being led to go so big? I'm going to play you guys a video right now on the get-go. Now, the video is of I reposted this on my X earlier. This is the video of a lady. She claims to be an ex-police officer. And what she's saying is that there was a letter sent out to all police officers by Gordon Brown, the then Labour Prime Minister, saying that these girls, the grooming girls victims, they had made informed choices, and that's their choice. Now, look, guys, this is devastating. This is terrible. This is horrific. What I want to do is I want you guys to understand how easy it is to control the police force. So that is one letter from Gordon Brown, and now you've got all the police force in line. What have I said all along, guys? Okay, we need that legal framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. So I'm going to play with you. I'm not going to play with you. I'm going to play you guys this video, and then we'll get onto this. Hang on, I've not got the chat on. Let me turn the chat on. Right, the chat's on. So let me share with you guys this video real quick.
A clip of an ex-police officer called Dion Miller has surfaced of her talking about a letter.
Guys, you can all go and Google this lady, Dion Miller. You can go and look, you can go and Google this lady, Dion Miller. Google her all you want. You guys tell me if she's credible or not. I'll let the video play.
Sent to all police forces around the UK by then, at the time, Prime Minister Gordon Brown. And the contents will truly shock you.
My name is Dion Miller. I'm an ex-police officer from Leicestershire Constabulary. During my service, I was awarded several letters of commendation. I received a Chief Constable's Commendation for Outstanding Service and was the recipient of a Bravery Award from the Prime Minister at that time, which I received at number 10 Downing Street. Thank you. I've not come here to speak to you today. I've come here to speak to them. Police officers of this country on the 19th of October 2018, and I hope you are listening. Former Chief Crown Prosecutor Mr. Nazir Afwaz stated in an interview to the BBC Radio 4 that in 2008 the Labour government under Prime Minister Gordon Brown and Home Secretary Jackie Smith sent a circular to all police forces in this country.
So just the context for you guys on TikTok, this lady, she's saying, what she's saying is she's standing up there, she's on a podium, and she's saying, in 2008, the Prime Minister Gordon Brown sent a circular letter to all police forces in the United Kingdom,
saying that as far as these young girls who are being exploited in town, we believe.
So what she's saying is, as far as these young girls that are being exploited in towns, and again, the video is cut, but I've seen the full video. What they're talking about is these young girls that are being exploited, or what you guys know what I'm talking about. what the government are saying is, we believe that
they have made an informed choice about their sexual behavior.
So what she's saying is a letter came out from the Prime Minister in 2008 to all police forces saying that these girls, remember guys, some of these girls were 10 years old. Some of these girls were 10 years old and were labeled prostitutes by the social services. And what the government sent out is that these girls have made an informed decision about their sexual behavior.
And therefore, it is not for you police officers to get involved in.
And therefore, it is not for you police officers to get involved in. So this was back in 2008, guys. Like, you can only imagine. You can only imagine, right? You can only imagine the carnage and the destruction that this has caused. And before I change tact a minute, guys, okay? I just want to highlight this for everybody, how it's very easy from the top down in a hierarchical system. It's very easy from the top to say, right, do not investigate any more of this. You've just seen it there. 2008, a letter came out to all the police officers, do not investigate. Do not follow through with this. Do not continue. So what are the police officers going to do? Mick, John, we've got this girl here. She says she's been by these gangs. Oh yeah, we're not allowed to investigate that. So riddle me this, riddle me that, Batman. What about now if there are things coming down from the top? What about now if there are non-disclosures signed by the police whereby they can't talk about what they're being told to do or not to do? What about super injunctions and the legal procedures now that are in the United Kingdom that can absolutely gag everyone? You know, these legal procedures, guys, they absolutely gag everyone. So I just wanted to bring that down because we are going to be talking about civil war in the United Kingdom, guys, okay, and how there is a potential death, and these are low-end estimates, okay? So these death toll, you know, this death toll of 23,000 a year, that is a low-end estimate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to I'm going to try, actually. What I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to share with you guys a video. I'm only going to do a small snippet of this. Last night, I shared a video. We just didn't have enough time to go through it as comprehensively as I wanted to. But last night, we went through a video, and the video was absolutely alarming. There were a lot of things on that video that were just... Sorry. There was a lot of things that went through. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I just need to find this timestamp, and then we will... I'll share this video with you. And for context, if you guys are watching on YouTube, I've got the exact same table. Right. We're going to go from there. So give me a second, guys, and I'll share this with you again. So the next voice you guys are going to hear is David Betts. Now, he is a well-established academic. He's a very credible guy, and he's talking about potential death toll in the United Kingdom, and we're talking 23,000 low end. I'm going to play it once. I will stop it at various points, and then I'm going to give you guys some facts and figures from the United Kingdom. I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to let you guys just think to yourselves, right, okay, all the information's there. All the building blocks are there. We can see what's happening, the inevitable, and I'm going to let you guys decide for yourselves. I need to unmute it.
Just kind of working out okay after some period of difficulty. It is going to get, things are bad now, but they are going to get very much worse.
Just imagine this, guys, okay? This is not just some random guy on the internet who's got no experience. Like me, I'm not a random guy on the internet with no experience. I've got a lot of experience in international affairs, conflict zones all around the world. You know, when people with vast amounts of, experience, understanding of how these things happen are saying, like he just said there, things are bad now, but they're going to get a lot worse.
And hopefully after they will get better. but you are going to have to go through a period of very much worse before you get there.
Do you envision many deaths?
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be speaking if I didn't.
Hundreds of thousands?
I don't want to be drawn. I'd rather present a range. If it is the case of, let's say things are only as bad as the worst year of Northern Ireland, right?
So just for context, ladies and gentlemen, the worst year in Northern Ireland, where the conflict or the troubles, I guess, in Northern Ireland, it was very binary. You had us and them. You had the pro-Irish and the basically you had people who wanted Northern Ireland to stay part of the United Kingdom, and you had people who wanted Northern Ireland to be part of Ireland, and that was the conflict. Both sides had a clear. I guess clear. You could argue whether it was clear, but in Northern Ireland, both sides had perceivably clear objectives. Now, what we have in the United Kingdom, and I will come onto this, I will come onto this shortly. What we have in the United Kingdom is Somalians, Eritreans, Syrians, Afghanis, Pakistanis, Indians, native English, native Scottish, native Irish, Northern Irish. And you know what? I'm going to say Irish as well, because we're all, we're also going through the same stuff. And of course, Welsh. So, these big communities within communities, all with different dynamics, all with different goals, and all wanting different things. I'm saying, well, tell me if I'm wrong, first of all, ladies and gentlemen. Do we or do we not in the United Kingdom have all those different dynamics? And I would say we have more as well. So we have all that in the United Kingdom already. So it's not going to be, and I've said this so many times, it's not going to be us versus them, whatever us versus them means. It's going to be far more complicated and far more deadly.
Which, if I recall correctly, is 1971, and about 500 deaths in a population of the Northern Ireland side.
So what he's going to do now is he's going to do Raven maths. So what he's saying is the worst year for violence in Northern Ireland, well, the worst year for death tolls in Northern Ireland was 1971, and that was 500. So what he's going to do now, a good old bit of Raven maths, he's going to expand that to the numbers of the United Kingdom.
So if you scale that up to the whole of the UK, you come to about 23,000.
So he's saying there, and I'm saying it's going to be a lot more complicated. So because, there are certain things certain people just won't do to each other. And there are certain things that people from different parts of the world will absolutely do to each other. But what he's saying there is 23,000.
Which is pretty bad. But that's kind of northern. I think that's bottom of the range.
Okay.
So he's saying there that's bottom of the range. So what he's saying there is that is the minimum, kind of like what you would expect per year, 23,000 deaths per year. And I just want to elaborate. Obviously, I don't know what he's thinking. I'm not going to claim to be him, but the reason I believe he's saying that that's the bottom of the range is because, like I've just said, the absolute complexities in the United Kingdom at the moment, the complexities with dynamics, the complexities with demographics, the complexities with the size, the complexities with the police force in the United Kingdom, the complexities with the political system. It's a lot more difficult to control in the United Kingdom. 23,000. Can you imagine, guys? Can you imagine 23,000? And this is baseline. This is like minimum standards. This is baseline, 23,000 people per year. Do you think the police are going to have the ability to investigate all of those? Do you think the police are going to be able to find the people who committed these acts? We've already seen that the police can't even that if the police get a message or an email through, they're not gonna investigate certain crimes. We've literally just seen that. That's why one of the reasons I want to share that video at the beginning of this live stream. So we already know that if a circular email goes out signed by the Prime Minister, for example, don't investigate these types of crimes. And if don't investigate these types of crimes, and in a civil war context, that email could be don't investigate crimes involving I don't know, whatever demographic you guys want to consider with that. And we are leading into a Mad Max Wild West scenario.
Scale it to, say, Bosnia scale or Syria scale.
So he's saying then. So what? Sorry, guys. I'll let this video continue, and then I'll stop it. I'll stop it at the end.
Or then you have a very much larger number. It's quite tricky. And I said, I'm sure many people are already thinking I'm being alarmist. So I don't want to just throw out just a bunch of scary numbers. But if people were to look at the average number of deaths in civil conflicts, you're looking at 1% to 4% of the population.
Just for context, guys, 4% of the 4% of the population, that's in the millions.
Is entirely within the realm of possibility if you're on a Syria level scale. No, I don't think it's
right. I'm going to leave that video there, guys. Okay. I may come back onto that later on. I did do this in depth yesterday, so I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna leave that there. But the reason I shared that video with you guys again, I didn't have really enough time to do it yesterday. What we're talking about there is what he says is low level 23,000. That's when you have white Christians fighting white Christians. Yes, they were Catholics. They were predominantly Catholics and Protestants on either side, but now you have a situation where you have all these different cultures, all these different religions, all put into the mix. So now it really turns the heat up on the amount of violence, because people will, like I keep saying, it's not going to be us versus them. It's going to be us versus them versus them versus them, and it's all gonna. That's where we are, guys. That is where we are right now. Now, let me jump onto the mainstream. In fact, let me jump onto the mainstream now, guys, because there's a few things that have been happening that I'm gonna give you guys I'm gonna let you guys ask the question. So, I think it was Chris Philp. Yeah. So Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, he's a front bencher. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, is saying we need to deport 1 to 2 million illegal migrants in the United Kingdom. Now, that needs to be done. But what I'm getting at here, do you so this is a question to you guys, okay? Do you think that we have the capacity in the sheer numbers, guys? I'm only talking about numbers here, okay? Literally, I'm going with the numbers. Do you think that Britain has the capacity to export? Do you think Britain has the capacity to deport 1 to 2 million illegal migrants? Do you think we can do that? I don't. So how is this going to work logistically? How is this going to work? How do we get rid of 1 to 2 million migrants? It's virtually impossible, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to say it's virtually impossible. I'm going to say, as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to happen. Not a chance. Not in a million years. Every day the problem gets worse. Okay, so let's accept that, right? I don't know. If you think I'm wrong and you think Britain has the capacity and the ability, well, I mean, physically, yes, of course. But do you think the likelihood of Britain being able to deport 1 to 2 million people in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. Do you think that's a reality? Do you think that can happen? You know, okay, it's up to you. If you think no, then think, right, okay, what is actually coming then? Where are we going? I've got another video actually of I've got another video of Shabina Mahmood. So this is a video from a couple of years ago, and she's let me share this with you. So now we've got Shabina Mahmood, who's the Home Secretary, and she's the one. And look, guys, I'm not sharing this stuff to be negative. I just want to share with you guys how unlikely what we're talking about is. How unlikely mass deportations are. It's just not going to happen, you know. So once you understand that mass deportations are not going to happen, then you understand that the coming whatever is inevitable. Let me share this with you guys.
Labour Party policy, but myself and a group of other Labour MPs.
So this is Shabina Mahmood, and she is talking about what she wants to do with, well, let's just see what she says about illegal migrants in the UK.
Specific plans regarding amnesty for undocumented workers. Myself personally, as a Labour backbench member of Parliament, I do support a general amnesty for all people who are already in the country, so they can regularise their status and start playing a full part in British society. But that will have to be alongside other documentation measures as well. That is not official Labour Party policy yet, but myself and a group of other Labour MPs are continuing to make the argument.
So what she's saying there is, this is Shabina Mahmood. She's the lady now in charge of securing our borders. What she's saying is, like, I don't know when this was, but it's certainly her a couple of years ago. What she's saying is she is supporting she wants to support an amnesty for all illegal migrants in the United Kingdom. So what she's saying basically is she doesn't want deportation. She thinks, you know what, everybody who's here should be able to stay here and just have an amnesty. Say, yeah, I'm here. And we'll say, it's okay. You can come in now. You're okay. You're okay. We got you. The time for all this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, it's over. The time's gone. What else have I got here? So now I'm going to talk about Shabina Mahmood and her new, now she's talking tough. This is an article from, it seems like she's changed her tune, but do we think a leopard can change their spots? Shabina Mahmood warns of Trump-style visa ban as she plots an overhaul of the ECHR latest. So, is it me, guys? Or I thought we couldn't change the ECHR. I thought we were bound and shackled by the ECHR. Right, let me share this with you guys. Give me a second. You know what? I'm not going to share that because it's got a watermark. I'll play the audio. This is Shabina Mahmood you're listening to now. So he just said, you failed to smash the gangs. We've got there's two people, what's his name? Danny Tomo and someone else. They've literally done more gang smashing between the two of them than the whole of this government. $20,000 crossings. I think she's waffling. I don't know where she's getting those numbers from. So I don't believe her. You've got to understand. You've got to understand these people, who they are as a person. So the Home Secretary is set to ban 3 countries from accessing UK visas if they fail to take back illegal migrants as part of sweeping reforms planned for the United Kingdom asylum system. Shabina Mahmood told governments in Angola, Nambia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, that citizens may be blocked from entering the UK if they do not rapidly improve their cooperation in taking back illegal. So, like, she's going to have no effect, like zero effect. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, like, the inevitable is here. We've already reached saturation point, and it just keeps coming. So Shabina Mahmood is, she's trying to talk tough. I'm not. I don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth, guys. You've got to understand that the longer this goes on, with more people coming to the United Kingdom, the more, we're already at inevitability. Just the worse it's going to be. So 10 weeks ago, Sir Keir Starmer sent Shabina Mahmood. This is an article from the BBC. 10 weeks. In fact, do you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm looking at the time. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a wee. I'm going to go for a wee. I'm going to come back. I'm probably going to close you guys down because we are triple streaming this morning, guys. We're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, and we are on X. I'm going to close you guys down on TikTok because I keep getting banned. I keep getting restricted. Yesterday, I got restricted. I don't even know what for. So I'm going to close you guys down in about 5 minutes on TikTok. I will continue this live stream on YouTube, on X. I'm going to go to the toilet. I'll be back in a minute. When I come back, I'm going to get the chat, and then I will continue with this live stream. Give me a minute, guys. Right, let me jump over onto the chat. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all you fine, good-looking people. I've got to say, there's some good-looking people on, guys, on both platforms, on both chat platforms, on both chat platforms, on the platforms, guys. Lisu is saying, didn't realize you were on TikTok this morning. Yeah, guys, I'm going to try and triple stream as much as I can. I will always close that. Unfortunately, I will always close TikTok down first because it's just so restrictive. And my coffee is starting to get really cold. And if I drink coffee while I'm on TikTok, I get restricted. And like yesterday, I got restricted on TikTok before we'd even started the live stream. I don't even know what I'd said. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, so let me get some chat on. Let me get the chat on. I'm going to start with YouTube. Templar Matt is saying it's not just the illegals that's the problem. It's also the generation born here rebelling. Yeah, exactly. Somebody put a post out saying if you're white British, you are more American than a Somalian who's lived in America for 20 years. And I thought, yeah, I mean, we need to understand the problem, So even when Chris Philp said then, Chris Philp earlier, he said, he said there needs to be mass deportations of, 1 to 2 million people. It still doesn't matter. There are first, second, third generation Pakistani, British Pakistanis in the United Kingdom, British Somalians, British Congolese, These people don't have an affinity with the United Kingdom. These people don't have an affinity with Britain. They believe that they are, if people want to be, you're either British or you're not. You either want to, you either want to sit on a Chesterfield settee, drinking a warm beer, eating a cucumber sandwich, or you don't. It's totally up to you. Sharon Park. Good morning, Sharon Park is saying apparently there are no gangs, all down to the government and French government, as said by Danny Tomo. Yeah. So the other day, you guys, I can't remember who it was, but somebody put in the chat, Sean, go and watch Fanny Tomo's video. And I was searching for somebody called Fanny Tomo, but there's nobody called, well, there may be somebody called Fanny Tomo. I don't know. It was Danny Tomo. It was a typo. So we found this video by this guy called Danny Tomo. And I'm assuming that's the video you're referring to, Sharon Park. And he was out in France. He's on the coastline, and him and this other guy, they're finding rubber dinghies, they're finding boats, and and what they were saying is there is no gangs. They're literally migrants being shipped on buses, on coaches, laid on by the French government to the shore, and they're being sent over. He's saying there's no gangs. He just put an end to that. So you've got to understand now, guys. Look, we've got to understand what is coming is. You guys put it in the chat. Actually, you guys put it in the chat. Do you think Britain has the capacity, the political will to deport 2 million people, 1 million people, 500,000? I would say not. These numbers are phenomenal, guys. These numbers are phenomenal. And if you think, yes, the government can deport all those people, fine. There may be an actual way that we don't get into civil war. But if you think, no, the government does not have, if the government in the United Kingdom does not have, look, guys, it's totally up to you. Whatever you think, how many airplanes is that? How much is that going to cost? Where are you going to send them? 1 million people? That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people to get out of this country and to send somewhere else. Can you imagine the political outcry? Can you imagine the protesting on the street when it begins to happen? So if you think that can happen, fine. All right. Maybe a civil war would be averted. But if you think no, it's not going to happen. Guys, listen, there's quite a few people trying to join the live stream on TikTok as co-hosts. Can you send me, bodybuilder something, and it's 2 people then just try to come up on TikTok. Guys, look, I don't mind sharing the platform with anyone, but you're going to have to send me a message first and say, hey, Sean, I want to talk about X, Y, and Z, or I want to say, I've done it before, and it just doesn't go well. It's a bit of a nightmare, actually. So if you want to come on the live stream, or if anybody wants to come on the live stream, send me a message first, say what we're going to talk about, and we'll make it happen. But yeah, as Sharon Park's saying, there is, there's no gangs. It's all done by the government. Paul Lloyd is saying they're bringing them over. Only 1 or 2 dinghies are used. Our lifeboats and coast guards are helping them come over. PC1 is saying they can, but won't even try. Well, this is what I mean. Yeah, like physically, I think it would be physically to deport 1 million people. Oh, look, guys, I believe everybody should be allowed to feel safe. Everybody should have, freedom, life, liberty, and the right to a family. I don't think anyone can deny that there are serious security problems with unvetted men, masses of unvetted men who share different cultures coming to the United Kingdom. I don't think that's unfair to say. And one of do you know what? Actually, guys, I'm gonna turn you guys off on TikTok now because I'm gonna probably say something that will get my video banned. So I am gonna turn you guys off on TikTok now. I will just be streaming on YouTube and X. If you want to go continue this conversation, I will be on YouTube and X. And if not, ladies and gentlemen, oh, hang on. And if not, ladies and gentlemen, then I will be back on tomorrow. No, I won't be back on tomorrow. In fact, what date is it? I've got to go to the No. And if sorry guys, I was a total brain fart. I had a message come through on WhatsApp. I thought about I've got to go and have a hearing test. What? Hey, what did he say? I was looking at the dates. I thought it was the 19th, but it's not. It's the 21st. But I'm going to be closing you guys down now on TikTok. I will continue this live stream on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, and I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. So if you want to go and join over there, that's absolutely fine. I will appreciate you. I will welcome you with open arms. But if not, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. I'll be back on this evening at 8. And I bid you good morning and a hearty breakfast. And I still don't know how to open the chat on that thing. Do you know what I'm going to do, actually? What I think I'm going to do is... hang on. What I think I'm going to do later on this evening, I think I'm going to open the chat up. You know, like I used to, and we used to do it with the, you know how I used to do the chat on TikTok? Because I know how to turn, yeah, I'll do that later on. I'll do that later on. So PC1 is saying they can, but they won't even try. The Duchess is saying if the government wanted a united front in the UK, they would stop the invasion and put an end to social media, which is being used to fuel divisions between everyone. You see, without social media, you know, I would... Okay, so without social media, how would we know what's going on in the world? We wouldn't. We'd only be able to go with the BBC. And one thing that's that struck me hugely in the maybe the like 25 years I've been in this industry is the rise in information and how that information and how quickly that information can be disseminated. For example, something can happen now in, I don't know, Australia, wherever, you know, something can happen in Australia right now. And within 30 seconds, we can be watching videos of that. We can be seeing footage of that. Now, of course, there are pitfalls with that. Of course, you know, at some point with the implementation of guys, those artificial intelligence videos, wow. Have you guys seen the artificial intelligence video of Trump doing a rap about the BBC? I'll remind me, I'll play that at the end of this live stream. What I'm getting at here is, you know, without social media and without people being able to share stuff, we would be folly to the BBC. You know, you guys have seen how the BBC it's not me speculating, you guys have seen how the BBC do manipulate videos. I mean, if they can do that to, hang on, I'll leave it. If they can do that to, you know, sorry, my gas bottle for my heater's just gone. So if they can manipulate that media of DJT, what do you think they're going to do to other people? And DJT, he's got the finances to take the BBC to court. He's got the finances to say, this is bullshit. I want £1 billion off you guys. You know, what about the smaller people? What about the Lucy Conleys? What about the Peter Lynchers? What about the, you know, anybody based? What about me? What about you? Do you think the BBC could doctor a documentary? And then this is how wild it is. You know, I've said things I know to be true on, I've done TikTok videos. I can caffeinate myself now, actually. I've done things on TikTok videos that I know to be true. And the mainstream media have been reporting other things, and I've had videos taken down for misinformation and fake news when I know it's true. And then a couple of days later, that information comes out. So I do think, I mean, social media plays a massive part in keeping people informed. Sean, have you heard how many Met police officers have been sacked? No, I've not. I don't have those. Can you, where are those statistics? I've not seen that. Matt Alexander is saying, I can't help but think if conscription starts at the same time as a fractional war, civil war, that is a good. But you know what, Matt, that is a good name for it. A factional civil war, a faction war, the faction war. I can't help but think if conscription starts at the same time as a factional civil war, British fighting men will be sent to war while violent illegals are left with our families. I think that as well. You know, I think that as well. It's just, it's wild times. It's absolutely wild times. And another aspect that, you know, people may or may not understand, but our historic adversaries, our near peer adversaries, so I'm talking about Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, you know, maybe some other people in that mix, they will be absolutely flooding the United Kingdom with subversion. They'll be flooding the United Kingdom with fake news and fake stories. They will be pumping money into criminal gangs. They'll be pumping money into causing system destruction. Last night we were talking about system destruction. So in the United Kingdom, the example we were talking about last night was one example we gave last night was there's many examples. So when you talk about system destruction, it's very easy for a state actor. So let me just sort of elaborate a little bit. So when people get onto the chat all the time, you know, and they're like, oh, Sean, are we going to get attacked? You know, they're seeing these missiles hitting Ukraine and like, oh, Sean, are we going to get attacked? Are we going to get attacked? The problem is, the answer is a yes and a no. Are we going to get attacked in the United Kingdom? Yes. Is it going to be through missiles and, you know, soldiers with rifles? No. The attacks coming to the United Kingdom is going to be a state-sponsored asymmetric warfare. So, look, guys, let me ask you guys this question, all right? If Russia was in a war with NATO and Britain was taking the lead, tell me how likely you guys think that is. Put that in the chat. You know, do you think that's likely? I would say it's already happening. Let me know what you guys think. So, if Britain, just hypothetical scenario, if Britain was if NATO was in a war with Britain, doesn't even matter if Britain's leading. If Britain was in a war, if NATO was in a war, minus the United States, with Russia, would Britain be a target? Absolutely. You know, it's fair game. And I'll be the first one to admit this. If, you know, avoid wars at all costs, but if you're in a war, win it at all costs. Quite simple. You know, it's quite simple. So in that context, you know, think about it. You know, you're there in the Kremlin, you know, the Russians, they're planning their next plan. You know, like, right, we've got to move those troops there. We're going to move that up there. And we need to buy more jet fuel, and we need to push that up there. Right, we need to close down RAF Bryce Norton. We need to close down RAF Bryce Norton on this particular week. Right, okay, what we're going to do? Okay, well, we can send in our best Spetsnaz on one of those electric scooters with a little spray can. Or we can send in, you know, we can send Oshnik missiles and decimate the whole area. One of those options is very expensive. It's very expensive because those munitions are very expensive. They're very expensive because there's going to be a retaliatory strike. They're very expensive because there's going to be, you know, a bigger unity in that country. That country will galvanize. When you attack a country en masse, you galvanize that country together. So when the Russians went into Ukraine in 2022, that galvanized them. They're like, yeah, we ain't doing this. We're all, yeah, whatever. We're not going to argue. We're just going to fucking fight these bastards. You know, that's what they said. So the Russians understand this. So they're not going to want to do that. They're not going to want the United Kingdom to galvanize together and say, yeah, we've got to come together to fight a greater good. They don't want that. So what they are going to do is send, get one of these liberals, a highly subverted liberal, these useful idiots, and say, hey, mate, go and get that electric scooter and those 2 cans of spray paint and close down Bryce Norton. You guys see where I'm going with this, right? Maybe it's not going to be a guy on an electric scooter, which is what broke into Bryce Norton the last time. Maybe it's not going to be a guy on an electric scooter. Maybe it's going to be a couple of guys. Maybe it's going to be a couple of migrants from a hotel, criminal gangs being paid a couple of grand each, and they are then told to go set fire to a substation. They don't know what this substation powers. They don't know the implications of setting that substation on fire. They've got no idea. They're just criminal gangs. They want a couple of quid. What do you think, guys? Do you think that's a likely thing to happen? Of those 2 options, which ones would you go for? I would go for the asymmetric one, because you're not going to galvanize the country. You're going to achieve your military aims, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. So when we talk about, civil war in the United Kingdom, what we've got to understand is there's more stuff, there's more stuff coming into this, and sabotage and asymmetric warfare, grey warfare, non-conventional warfare, all this stuff. I do think it's going to have to have, I keep saying this, we're going to have to rename a lot of the, weird, we're going to have to rename a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff doesn't fit in those in that description. For example, civil war is usually between 2 groups. It's not going to happen. Asymmetric, non-conventional, all these different types of warfare are usually done by a military force. Here in the United Kingdom now, and I would say across Europe as well, I would say across Europe is the same. We have a scenario where you can pay criminal gangs. Why wouldn't you do that, guys? Why wouldn't you do that? Of course, you can send your best 2 Russian Spetsnaz operators. They can infiltrate the United Kingdom with their little watchers with a repelling rope on it and some exploding toothpaste. Absolutely. And Aston Martin. They can do that. Absolutely. They can do that. And their little Novichok deodorant or whatever it is. They can absolutely do that 1,000,000%, guys. That can happen. But think how much that costs. Think like, those Spetsnaz guys that are infiltrating your country, how long in time does it take to train one of those? Well, I would say for a British special forces operator of that caliber that you're going to want to push into another country, you're looking at 20, 25 years at least for their training and evolution to happen. Because you're not going to choose some, contrary to popular belief, you're not going to choose somebody that's in their 20s. They're too young. They're not experienced enough. They don't have that knowledge. You're going to choose somebody who's probably done their 22 years in the military and who's left and now works for, secret services or MI6 or something. That's the type of person you're going to use. Somebody who's trustworthy, somebody that's reliable, somebody that can shoot their way out of such situations if they get into them. You're not going to use young kids. You forget it. That's who you pay. They're the criminal gangs who you pay. You wouldn't use, what I'm getting at here is it takes a long time to train these people. It takes a long time to grow this, what's the word I'm looking for, capability. So you're not going to send them into a country when you can pay somebody a couple of grand to achieve the same objective. Danny Walker is saying, just a wild theory. I love wild theories. Just a wild theory. These migrants sent to the UK to get sent into a conscripted military and then turn on the British military after they've been trained with weapons. So it doesn't work like that. So first of all, I do think there is a high likelihood that there will be some sort of scheme in the future Let's see what happens in Germany, guys, on the 1st of... let's see what happens in Germany on the 1st of... I was going to say on the 1st of January when they start this not conscription. But what I would say is, you know, there is a strong argument for citizenship for service. Absolutely, there's an argument for that. Now, when you talk about conscripts, it doesn't work like that. You know, you will be pushing these conscripts forwards. And when you push them forwards, they're pretty much left on their own to maraud their way through. They're like land pirates. So I don't think the level of training and the level of capacity would allow that. Although it may, you know, you could have, you could have Russian conscripts meeting up with British conscripts and saying, listen, we're just conscripts. We don't even care. Let's maraud our way that way. It could absolutely happen. You know, a conscript army is used totally different to a conventional army. James is saying Poland. Right, let me get this up, guys. Poland. Somebody mentioned this yesterday. Okay, right. Okay, so this is breaking, guys, from 6 minutes ago. I think this needs to be a standalone video. Right. I will. Okay, so I'm reading you this now. So, explosion on Polish railway was unprecedented act of sabotage, says PM Europe Live. Donald Tusk says worst fears confirmed over damage on route used to ferry aid to Ukraine. I said this, guys. I said this yesterday. I told you about the train line. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you guys real-time analysis, speculation. Yesterday, when somebody put this in the chat about the train lines, I talked about the train lines. I talked about the routes and the and the significance of those routes into Ukraine. Talked about the train lines, talked about the train gauges. I do this off my head, guys. Okay, so let me read this article now. So from 7 minutes ago, no, I'm not interested in that one. Not interested in that one. Not that one. Not that one. Right here. Right. Okay. Fact. Hang on. Give me a second, guys. There's a lot of updates come on about this, and they're all waffling. I'm trying to find. There we are. That's it. 2 hours ago. Okay. So from 2 hours ago, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Tusk is saying unprecedented act of sabotage aimed at Poland's security. In further comments after his visit to the site of the incident this morning, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk called it an unprecedented act of sabotage aimed at the security of the Polish state. An investigation is underway, just like the previous cases of this kind. We will catch the perpetrators regardless of who their backers are. No doubt about it. No doubt about sabotage, Poland's interior minister says, with another part of the same railway route also investigated. Poland's interior minister, Marcin Kierwiecki, also justified the issue, issued a brief update saying there is no doubt that we are dealing with an act of sabotage. Another section of the strategic rail route where the tracks were damaged is also being investigated. Poland confirms sabotage on the railways. I'm just trying to find out where it is. The incident will cause further concerns in Poland, which remains on high alert amid continuing hybrid threats from Russia and Belarus after more than 20 drones flew into Polish airspace in September, prompting a NATO response. Like, we don't understand, like, you know, people in the United Kingdom don't really understand, or maybe they don't have the because it's never happened to us, the actual, the actual depths of asymmetric warfare. Taking out, as we understand, it's called system destruction, where you're trying to hit that country's infrastructure and make that country implode. Like the Russians could absolutely have done this. The Russians could have done this with a missile. Absolutely. They could have used drones or missiles. That would have galvanized Poland. All Poland would have come together. But now what you do is, and this is another thing. And again, this is one of the pitfalls of social media. And again, you've got to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. Another pitfall with social media is, and again, this is how I would do it. I would carry out a sabotage attack. And then what I would do then is I would pump into Poland propaganda saying it's a false flag attack, saying it's, why would Russia do this? It's a false flag. It's a false flag, and then that casts doubt. People in Poland start doubting each other. Oh, I think it's a false flag. Oh, I don't think it's a false flag. So you see how there's this new dynamic of warfare evolving. Right, I'm just going to jump up, guys, and get some of the comments. False flags happen. Yes, I agree. False flags happen, but equally false flags don't happen. And sometimes, the bad guys want you to think it's a false flag. So here we are in this you see the mess that we're in. You see the mess. And at some point, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in the United Kingdom, if you live in Europe, and the Ukrainians are finding out, the Ukrainians know this, at some point, it's not going to matter. Is it a false flag? Is it not a false flag? It's not going to matter. What's going to matter is protecting your family, protecting your kids, protecting yourself. And the only way to do that is to mobilize. But unfortunately, here in the United Kingdom, it's illegal. What I'm talking about there is illegal. So I wouldn't suggest anybody does that. And ultimately, the only way to protect ourselves in the United Kingdom legally is to have put pressure on the government to have some sort of legal framework where we can protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, because we do not have that. Templar Matt is saying, we're swizzled. Because we have woke people, because we are going to net zero, because prices keep going up, because we can't protect ourselves. Listen for all mainstream media using the exact sentences proves false flags every time. I can't pick fault with that statement at all. I can't pick fault with that statement at all. What I think we just need to understand is we don't really know what's happening. And unless you see it and feel it with your own ears, you've just got to, maybe it is a false flag. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. So Debbie Doobs is saying they are given a script to report from. Yeah. So the way this works in a war zone, and I've seen this lots of times. So the way this works in a war zone. So say that you are, say that you're reporting in Ukraine. All right. Say that you're all Syria, wherever. It doesn't really matter. You're out on the front line because that's where everybody wants. Everybody wants to see. Let's be honest. We all want to see the reporter with their body armor and their helmet and their microphone standing like in the war zone. That's the shot that you want to get. That's like the money shot. Now I'll tell you how controlled this is, guys. I used to go out there and do this. This is my job for quite a few years. I would, it's really funny because you get all these people you get all the press guys with their helmets and body armor on, and then you get people like me just walking around like out of camera shot behind them, just like talking to people. So BBC, Sky News, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, GB, whoever, whoever, they all go out there. They all go to these war zones. And what happens is they will get picked up in the morning by a military press officer. That military press officer will then drive them to a location that they deem safe. All right. So now you've got all these press crews in the same minibus or coach, whatever, depending on how many there is, and they drive them to the same location. They get out and they say, right, do your shit. So then you will literally have Sky News like standing here with that backdrop. Like 2 meters away, you'll have BBC standing there with a slightly different backdrop, but they'll all be within the same vicinity. You might have CNN stood in front of a building or in a building, or like stood in a building looking out the window so it looks different. But they are literally all in the same look. It's so scripted, it's unbelievable. And they're all in like a little area. So what will happen then? The press officer will come back and he will give them an update. He will say, right, this is the update that you guys have got. This has just happened. Now, before that press officer gets that update, that has to go through his chain of command. So something will happen on the front line. I don't know. A town's been seized or whatever. So a town will get seized. The people from, the commanders on the ground will then radio that back into Kiev. They will then put a political slant on it. They will then tell their press officer what to tell the mainstream media. So then the press officer will, and that's how it's all scripted. It really is scripted, guys. It's scripted by the military. And it has, it does have to be done that way. I'm not, here's my old biases and my old, I think if I was in Star Wars, I think I'd be part of the Empire, because I am for law and order. I am for law and order and putting an end to these rebellions. But that's how it works anyway. That's how it works. Danny Walker is saying, I didn't realize how bad Putin was. He dated. Yeah, so he had wasn't she like a ballerina or something, and then she vanished, and then she was seen like 9 months later with a kid. And Band again is saying the first casualties of war is the truth. It is indeed. It is indeed. And when you're on a battlefield, you do. I don't want to. Am I going to contradict myself? Okay, right. Here's the thing. If you're fighting a war and the bad guys are coming, you don't want your guys to run off. You want your guys to stand and fight and mount the biggest defense that is humanly possible. If you tell your guys, if you tell your guys that you're gonna, so the Battle of Helm's Deep. I'm going Lord of the Rings, guys. I'm going Lord of the Rings. So the Battle of Helm's Deep. You have You have Theoden. He's the king. They have like 200 men. I think they've got, before the elves turn up, I think there's like 200 men. They're like kids, and they're not warriors. There's like 200 people there. And the king is like walking around and he's telling people that, they're going to destroy the orc army, and there's like 10,000 of the orcs. And Aragorn's behind him saying, Theoden, mate, we need more men. We're gonna die. And Theoden says, he says something like, my men's courage hangs on a thread. What would you have me say? So when you're in a war and you're fighting a war, you need to keep that morale up. You don't want your troops losing morale and think they're losing, because they won't fight. Band again is saying Sean thinks like a general. I know how these things work, guys. I know how these things work, and you can't, and this is Ukraine is a fantastic example of like how this is done right. So early on in Ukraine, the the Ukrainians were having limited success. Now, one of the things that the Ukrainians were doing is putting a lot of social media online, and they were absolutely saturating the online space. The Ukrainians were saturating the online space with pro-Ukraine propaganda, and it led people in Ukraine to believe that they could actually win. So they were pushing harder. That, you know, I mean, it was a really, like, how it galvanized that country. I was there when this was happening. It galvanized this country. I mean, you had people just like, you know, who weren't military coming out of their homes and putting checkpoints on the street and just, like, you know, with hunting rifles. You had sewing factories turning themselves into making camouflage nets. You had anybody who could do anything were building stuff, you know, and making stuff. And it was wild, but, you know, the Ukrainians did mount an offense, and because of social media, of the positive influence of social media, that galvanized the country to fight harder. Now, let's have a look at the warm-up. Actually, let's go to the warm-up. So I'll go to the warm-up and I'll show you guys, you know, the reality of the situation in Ukraine. And again, Putin did overplay his hand. Absolutely, Putin overplayed his hand. Right, so the warm-up's not updated for 2 days. I will share this with you. Give me a second. So this is the warm-up. This is the map of Ukraine. The red obviously denotes Russian-occupied territory, which is a lot. This front line here, guys, so this whole area in red, if the fighting stopped tomorrow and both sides, you know, started singing Kumbaya and they all left, this is going to be the biggest demining operation the world has ever seen. It's going to put Cambodia, Vietnam, they're going to look like, you know, it's going to look like small fry. The amount of munitions, landmines, booby traps that have been left in this region is unbelievable. So that's going to be like, you know, for the next 20, 30 years. Right, so this is Ukraine. Sorry, this is the area we're talking about. The map hasn't updated since the 15th. So I guess it's only 1 day behind. But, you know, that town of Pokrovs, it's gone. You know, it really has gone. We were saying it was 2 point... no, we're good at that. Yeah, it's not really changed. Anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. So when we look at the front line in Ukraine, you know, regardless of what the media are telling you, there's only one direction of travel from the Russians, and the Russians are going east. Sorry, the Russians are going west. They're not going east. And every day there's more ground being taken. Every day there's more, you know, every day there's more ground lost by the Ukrainians. Right, listen, guys, I am going to close this down now. I'm just conscious of the time. I think I'm going to do a couple of standalone videos about what we've spoken about there. Just in a nutshell, what we've been talking about today, guys, okay? And I'll let you guys decide, okay? We've been talking about a death toll of 23,000 per year in the United Kingdom as a result of a civil war. In fact, I need to change that title so it makes more sense. Now, if you don't think civil war is coming, fine, all right, fine. The only way that I feel civil war right now could be avoided is with mass deportations. And the numbers we're talking about, the numbers that Chris Philp is talking about, is 1 to 2 million. Do you think it's feasible? Do you think the government in the United Kingdom have the capacity to deport 2 million people? And when those deportations start happening, what do you think those people who know they're going to get deported, what do you think they're going to do? You know, so I'll leave that with you guys. I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my stuff, guys, okay? It really helps me out when you guys do that, and I will see you guys later. I'll be back on at 8, and I bid you good morning and a hearty breakfast.